Hello and welcome to Light Warrior Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Karen Can, author of the #1 best-selling book, Sensitivity is Your Superpower: How to Harness Your Gifts, Fulfill Your Purpose, and Create a Life of Joy. And if you're new to my community and if you're watching this on YouTube or some other platform, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button. And we also have a freebie gift called the Sensitive Soul Empowerment Guide, the 3 ways of navigating your way to more peace, positivity, and personal power. And we would love to invite you to our light medicine community, and all the links on how to get there in this guide. You can get it at sensitivesoulguide.com. And today I have a very special guest. And in fact, she's connected with one of my favorite, I would say, law of attraction teachers of all time, Bob Proctor. And Bob recently passed away as of the recording of this podcast. And he was a co-author in the Navigating the Clickety Clack series. In fact, Bob normally does not do compilation books, but one of the people, the publisher of the book, Keith Leon S., was one of the people that Bob lovingly mentored, and he was just absolutely wonderful. I'm gonna cry a little bit. Wonderful to Keith, and so I have very beautiful, feelings when it comes to Bob. And today, here we go. I did not know I was going to cry. Today, we have the beautiful Suzana Mihajlovic with us. She has been mentored by Bob as well. And actually, we're going to learn a little bit later about this beautiful co-creation that she has created with Bob's son, Brian. So that a little bit on that later. So she's the founder of Your Two Minds, and she's a best-selling author, a speaker, elite success coach, recognized as the missing link between success and failure by clients. With over 20 years of management experience, she's passionate about unlocking human potential, holding degrees from Deakin University and qualifications from various different institutions. It's actually quite long. Suzana has a global clientele and has shared the stage with, like I said, Bob Proctor and others, contributing to major speaking events worldwide. And so we're super excited to have Suzana here to talk about some of these blocks that we often have and may not really understand what is causing them and why we can't move forward, and that there is a lot of potential that lies within us that can be unlocked. And she's a specialist in that area. So without further ado, welcome Suzana to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karen. It is absolutely my pleasure and my honor to be here. I absolutely love light medicine and all of the work that you do. Thank you so much.
Oh, our pleasure. And I did not warn you that sometimes I cry all of a sudden for no reason. But
something in common.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, tell us about your journey at becoming the success coach that you've become, and perhaps a bit about meeting Bob, because obviously he's dear to my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob is dear to everyone's heart. No matter whom I speak with, anyone that has known him, he is one person that I've never heard anyone say anything but positive. And that's who he truly was. But my journey has been a lifelong journey. So as a child, I was one of those children that was a little bit weird, a little bit different, and knew exactly her purpose. I didn't grow up in a religious family, but I was drawn to spirit, to God, without anyone teaching me about what God meant. And I was one of those children. My earliest childhood memories was that I just attracted people, whether they were babies would settle in my presence, or 80-year-olds would want to come and see me. So I had this ability to connect and see deep, connect deeply in people's souls and understand who they are at that level and what their potential is. I'm from a migrant family. I was born in Australia. My parents and brother are from Serbia. And what that meant for me, I had parents that were robbed from having an education. So, my father, my earliest memories, he had big dreams and hopes for me. And that made me be a big dreamer and take this gift, or we all have a gift, I guess. It's not just me, but this childhood thing inside me to a bigger vision, to work with people around the world. And when I was a little bit older, I thought it would come through studying psychology and counseling, and pursued a tertiary education. Absolutely loved psychology and counseling, loved it. But what it did was, the gap was, it focused on the brain and the five senses. Back then, that was over 20 years ago. Back then, I believe it has changed a little bit now, and focused on your five senses. But the most, for me personally, and that was fascinating, absolutely loved it. But the frustration was, when I found a job and pursued a career in the helping professions, is we missed out 99% of the person's potential. And that was the part of us that we didn't see. So I ended up in senior management in the helping professions, and I was there for longer than what I had expected. I was just afraid to leave work and pursue what my desire and gift was. But that was one of my frustrations. We have the ability to have quantum leaps. We have genius locked up inside us. And you'd hear Bob when he was alive, you have genius in you. And I think one of the things that's really missing is, education is so important. I value my education. I'm grateful for it. However, it doesn't teach us about ourselves.
Right.
It doesn't teach us about who we truly are. And when I mean truly, yes, we are incredible human beings on the physical, but within us, and a part of this human journey is spirit. Within us, there's absolute genius. Within us, there is infinite potential. And we haven't been taught to tap into that potential. We haven't been taught to understand what lies within, what lies in the parts of us that is unseen. So I was always fascinated and studied and read every self-help book. And I don't know when I discovered Bob Proctor. It was decades ago, but I do remember for many years driving to work, to the job. And I worked for some incredible organizations. They were just fantastic. But I won't be dreaming of sharing the stage with Bob Proctor, doing my work, doing my gift with Bob Proctor, and being friends with him. And I did that for years, and I knew deep down that it will be, a reality. I didn't dare share it with anyone. Yeah, I didn't share it with anyone because, that energy sometimes that you get, people will say, oh, that's great. But that's not what they mean. And they're thinking, who do you think you are?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I would drive to work, and I knew that was my destiny. And it was 2017 that I finally had the courage to leave the full-time job. January 31st, 2017, I had $500,000 debt, which was it was good debt. It was in 2 mortgages, but it was debt, and always had a job. So that was a big, scary leap for me. And then things just fell into place. I started to work with Bob, and, he got to know me very well. I became one of his top people in his company. There was one period where I'd receive an email from Bob every single day. So that's my journey. And
that's beautiful.
He really, Bob Proctor, really,
So did you connect with Bob through like a like a convention or a course or one-on-one coaching, or just curious about how that started, like the form?
Yeah, sure. So for years I wanted to do his courses, and when I left work I was a little bit lost. I knew this is what my destiny was and what my purpose was, but I had no idea how to make it happen. I had been in a job all of my life. And so left work end of January. February was one of his seminars, the paradigm shift. And I thought, well, I've left my work. It's probably not a good time to go there, but I'll do the live stream.
Mm.
And loved it, loved it, loved it. And there was an opportunity to work with him to become a consultant. So I jumped on board at a time when there was no income coming in.
Okay. I know that
I
one.
had to redraw, but I think most people that succeed do know that one. The intuition kicked in and you just had to do it. I just took action and here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really neat. I'm just thinking back. I'm like, they had live stream back then? You know, yeah, that was a production, like, I mean, not like now, right? Like the tech is so,
That's right.
yeah, easy now, but back then it was a production to be able to do that, to pull that off.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
wow.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
great. Well, in your journey as this consultant, working with Bob and learning the stuff that you already learned. Now, when you said you were a little, rephrase what you said, but just a little odd, like different growing up. That's how our audience often feels growing up. They're sensitive souls. They may not recognize that term, but they're just different. They think a different way. A lot of them grow up feeling, I have this greater purpose and no one around them feels the same way. So they feel kind of isolated. And then the dreams, maybe not in your case, but for them, often their dreams start to die because they don't have someone there to support them to say, hey, it's okay. You have this big dream to save the world, or heaven on earth. And if we do share our dreams, sometimes like you, very smart to contain them, but sometimes we do share our dreams and we get lambasted for it because it's not okay. Like, how dare you? Who are you to think you could do that to save the world? Like, that's ridiculous, And
That's
so many of our sensitive souls go through that. So maybe you can walk us through, like, that scenario so many of us go through, and like, how do we pick up the pieces or even realize that, hey, well, what we dreamed of is possible and we can go for it.
absolutely. Dr. Karen, I'd love to start with, who do you think you are not to achieve big dreams?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, I was very lucky in that I had a father that had a dream of me to become a doctor. I never wanted to be a doctor, but what that did for me, without him realizing, a medical doctor, it just wasn't something that I personally wanted to do. But what that did for me was, when I was bullied at school and we had severe bullying happening, it
Mm,
helped me dream. It helped me connect to that spirit, to that thing inside me. And being a sensitive child, as you mentioned, most of us are, that are different, very sensitive.
mm,
I was able to feel and connect without realizing, connect to energies. I didn't even realize I was doing that. So I stayed there, with the feeling, and
mm.
then brought on the dream. Um,
Wow.
and it was a deep thing inside me that it was a must. This had to happen.
Wow. Yeah.
So for anyone that that feels like they haven't had that support, or they have been knocked down, which I think is most of us. I've had the knocks also. I think everybody experiences that. I would love to send the message out. Who are you not to? Who are you
Mm,
not to? You see, the reason why most people react in that way is because they don't know the truth of who they are. We have been so conditioned, and we have been brought up with parents, most well-meaning, most parents love their children and want the best for their children, but they are bringing in the generational trauma, the societal trauma that has been passed on to their children without them realizing the truth of who they are and the truth of who their children are. So therefore, they're bringing in all of their conditioning that has probably nothing to do with this day and age and who we are, nothing to do with the child, with you. And unconsciously, they're passing it on to their children. Now, the beauty of this time that we are living in now, we are living in the information era. And because of people like Bob Proctor, like Rhonda Burns, like so many of them, they have opened up a pathway for people to start to understand themselves. And science too, Nikola Tesla and also Einstein, they were the first to tell us that everything is a frequency. And these are scientists. These are our two major intellects that we know of in history. One of our two anyway. There have been many. Okay. So they're the first that have or one of the first that have said that everything is a frequency. Everything is energy. And more recently, as a result of that work, more recently, we have the study of quantum physics. So what does quantum physics show us? It shows us who you are, who you truly are. It studies the atom. And the atom, you know, shows us that you are less than 1% physical. Dr. Curran, you are 99.9999999% energy, nothingness. And that nothingness is the greatest intelligence that exists. It is
Well, I'm glad you didn't say airhead. Just kidding. I was like, okay, she's gonna say empty space, and that anyway. So
that is so good. So this intelligence that you are is the same intelligence that has created the exact same intelligence that has created the universe, the solar system. You are less than 1% physical. This beautiful woman that I'm looking at is less than 1% physical. Yet, because we live in a society that is waking up, I believe we are waking up because of people like yourself that's doing this work and getting it out there. We are conditioned to focus on the less than 1%, and the less than 1% is the five senses, the physical. So therefore, we are conditioned to focus on what's here, what we see, taste, touch, and smell. But also, we have the subconscious and everything that we've been taught, or that we not necessarily even taught. You know, you may have experienced something as a child and you took it as a negative. So unless you understand yourself and the power within, you might take that negative and think that's who you truly are. But that
right,
is
a lot of people
nowhere.
go through that imposter syndrome. They have this desire to make a difference, desire to be a healer, a change maker, and then they start and then they make quote unquote mistakes, and it doesn't work out initially, and they think, well, who am I to do this important work? And that imposter syndrome just, you know, can put on the brakes.
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely, absolutely. And I hope that this message to your listeners, anyone that has experienced that, anyone that's experienced failure, because we all do, failure is a part of success. It is the law of opposites. So you're going to experience failure. But I would hope that this message brings people back to a reminder of who they truly are. And when you understand that, you ask yourself the question of who am I not to pursue my desire?
That was a great mantra to remember. I'm sure that many people who have heard that and really resonated with that beautiful message may have sticky notes all over their house to remind themselves, who am I not, you know, to do, you know, this beautiful dream. So a good sticky note challenge. Um, you help people with a lot of change, and change can be really challenging, especially with stuff going on. There's this or that, the stress, COVID, holidays, people being unwell, and that kind of thing. So we sometimes we can get stuck in what we know and what we've always done. So, give us some insight as to, how, in your experience, how have you helped people change to be a more aligned with those dreams that we've so forgotten about?
Absolutely. And Dr. Karen, I think the first step is in helping people understand their marvelous mind and how it works and why they feel stuck or why they feel they repeat the same patterns. And I did mention it. So we have, you know, there are more parts, but there's a conscious mind and the subconscious. And your subconscious mind is basically your automatic mind, your habitual mind. And it is full of stuff from the past. Studies now show us that that the subconscious mind processes 20 to 40 million pieces of information every second. Yeah, yeah. And approximately 97% of you is unconscious. It's your subconscious that's basically, you know, controlling your habits. So 97% of you is habitual. It's unconscious. About 1 to 4% of you is conscious. So your conscious mind is the mind that you are absorbing information from. And it's also the mind where you imagine, and you are assessing the information, and you either accept it or you don't. And as soon as you accept it, it moves into your subconscious. Okay, so if there's doom and gloom out there, and this is really important information, because once you understand this, you understand we are inundated with information these days. You get up and you turn on the TV if that's what you do. I don't, but many people do. Or you walk outside and you drive to work and you put on the radio, or just people's energy on the street. We are absorbing that. If you don't understand how your mind works, it is going straight into your subconscious, and a lot of the information is not there to empower you. Okay,
Right.
so you have the option to either accept or reject information coming to you. You could just say to yourself, no, I don't believe that. That's not my truth. See you later. Your subconscious, whatever is in your subconscious, it will become your habit. It will end up being your result. Okay, so when information, so if you can imagine my little diagram here,
Okay.
this represents the subconscious. Anything that goes into your subconscious will then act it out. You will act it out. It will end up being your results. As a child, up until the age of 7, there was no conscious mind. So everything that you were absorbing, and children are sensitive, any energy they're absorbing is going straight into the subconscious. So most of us, not having Bob Proctor as our father, most of us have been, have had significant others that did not understand this. So they put negatives into our subconscious, which then becomes our reality.
Mm-hmm.
How do I work with people to change that? The very first step is to understand how your mind works and why you are who you are today. Together with the truth of who you are 99.99999% God intelligence, source intelligence. There is absolutely nothing that you cannot do. If you have a desire, it is probably your soul seeking a fuller expression of who you are.
Mm.
So therefore, that desire is meant to be yours. So they're the first two things. What do you want? What is your desire? And understanding your marvelous mind, and the truth of who you are. Now, Dr. Karen, as you probably would know, it's challenging to change the subconscious. So I work with people on a number of different ways, mainly in group programs, helping them understand themselves and helping them change these paradigms. We change them through repetition and through emotion, through feeling. So I use a number of techniques, teaching, coaching, even some meditations to help people go deep in the cellular level so that they can move past their old programming and into the goal that they really want. Changing your self-image of who you think you are is an absolute critical process to this.
So when you're working with people in the groups and they're learning about these, how the mind works and how we manifest, if you will, into three-dimensional reality or solidity, our subconscious, those habits, those tape recorders, as some people have said over and over again. So what you're saying is that acknowledgement of, oh, this is how it works is very empowering. Otherwise it's like, oh, well, I just have bad luck,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Very empowering. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because most people will also have hiccups on the journey with me, so I work with people from 3 to 12 months, and the reason why is you need to keep repeating the new pattern. And often I see around the mark, some people, go back to their old ways, or they'll kind of not show up to a group session. So I'm like, that's interesting. And then paradigm has kicked in, the old way has kicked in. And once they break through that, it's incredible what happens. It's just beautiful to watch. Absolutely beautiful to watch.
Yes, I love that as well. There's different formats and opportunities for people to break through their patterning, and a lot of times they don't even know that's a pattern. They don't even know that it's that subconscious mind that they think, well, consciously I'd like to be prosperous. Like, so why isn't it working, right? Because there's that tiny little bit of that conscious mind going, well, this is what I desire, but the subconscious is like, no, you don't. Not really, because you don't think you're good enough, and you're going to get in trouble, and somebody's not going to like you, and then you can't stand when someone doesn't like you, and it goes on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Spot on. Spot on. And
Wow.
also, yeah, if I may just add to that, and this is where, people get the law of attraction wrong, and knowing Bob's work, Dr. Karen, you may have heard him say the law of attraction is actually the secondary law. We've got it wrong. There's a missing piece. Primary law is the law of vibration. And your subconscious is a vibration. It's your feeling mind. So what is feeling? What is emotion? It is a vibration. So therefore, if you don't start changing your subconscious programming, it will be difficult to manifest. You'll be able to manifest the green lights and the card spots as you do, but why can't you manifest the big things? It's because it's the subconscious that needs some changing.
Okay. Yes. And okay. So number one, we know that understanding how the mind works is very empowering, because then we know, oh, wow, most of me, or the action that I am is taking, is from that subconscious programming that we've all had as humans growing up, whether it be from parents, well-meaning, teachers, society, governments, whatever. And then overcoming that really is creating these brand new patterns and habits. And for most people, like, this isn't overnight, right? Like, I mean, if I want to do an axle jump in figure skating, and after 20 years, I'm still working on that. I started as an adult. So it takes a lot of focus and concentration and practice, but not just practice, perfect practice. So getting the mind involved in it in a positive way. And like you said, repetition, because that's the one thing I was missing in those 20 years, is I was not consistent in my repetition of that particular skill. I had misunderstandings, and if I had repeated it, it would have been repeating it wrong. But anyway, the point is that I did not rep it out. and I'm clear on
Yes,
that. So tell us a little bit more about that repetition, because some
yes.
people are like, what do you mean I got to do this affirmation? Or what do I mean I got to do this over and over again?
Absolutely, sure. And I love, Dr. Karen, that you've touched on that, because so many people repeat an affirmation over and over and over again, and might see, some results, but sometimes not the results that they would love. So for me personally, what I have found working with my clients is sometimes it's not enough just to repeat an affirmation. It involves different parts of you, your imagination, and imagining what you want clearly, like you are here, like it is here now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Emotion. So ask yourself, how would I feel if I had that thing? So you've got your imagination. So you are imagining from your body like you are the success that 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 you want to be already. How do I feel now that I have the success? And who am I? You must be the person first. So who am I? Who do I talk? How do I talk? How do I walk? How do I feel about myself? How do I see myself as this person? I would write the affirmations and read them out if you choose to do affirmations. As I was sitting here this morning, I wrote out, a whole page of my goal over and over again. And the reason I write is because as you are writing the hand movement, you are using different parts of your brain.
Mm.
You start to imagine being that person. So you're writing in present tense. So you're using
Yes.
your imagination, and that connects to your feeling. Okay. So it's not just in the reading of affirmation. If you're reading it without all those components, it will become your truth, but it might take a long time. When
Mm.
you imagine, when you are the person right now that you want to be, okay, what you're doing is you are aligning with the frequency of what it is that you want. So if everything is 99% energy, we are living in an ocean of motion, as Bob would say. It's all frequency, it's all vibration. And what Einstein found was everything is frequency. So if you match two frequencies together, it must become the reality. Okay. It does not become your reality if you say, I want to be a millionaire, but you are focused on lack. Okay. Or I want to be a successful energy healer, one of the examples that you mentioned, but I'm focusing on the failure and how hard it is. If you want to be a successful anything, if you have a desire, be the desire first. Be the person. Develop a paradigm, a subconscious program of being that person and acting and feeling and imagining, seeing what you would see in front of you.
Mm.
Your vibration will eventually align.
Right. And I'm going to put this in little practical terms, if I may, in terms of my own personal experience. So, having the desire to grow my impact in the business, so I impact more and more people in
Yes,
a beautiful way. It came to me that at some point I really needed to take personal responsibility for the money piece. Because a lot of us healer sensitive soul types could care less about that part, right? But then there's bills to pay, there's staff to pay, there's, apps to use, platforms to pay, all this kind of stuff. And so part of that was like, okay, if I desire to be at this level, playing at this level, affecting this many people, then I'm going to need this support system, which includes this many staff. Okay, because I
absolutely.
can't do everything myself because that's not necessarily my forte. And because I was so, I can't say anti-number, but just kind of like couldn't care less, you know what I mean? I just was like, yeah, whatever, then it became important that I actually pay attention to that. Now, the cool thing is I realized that I could have a coach for that would help me, support me, and maybe do the micro stuff, like, and have a staff member who's good at that, personality wise, good at that kind of stuff. Love spreadsheets, right? Like we used to have a joke in the Academy of Light Medicine, like Dr. Karen and spreadsheets were like, now I
I
love
laugh because I get it. Trust me, I get it. Yeah,
right, right. Well, I have team members who love spreadsheets.
wow.
And yeah, and so
Spreadsheet lovers.
right, right. I mean, bless them, right? Bless these spreadsheet lovers. And then but I had to find I can't go to myself and say, well, force myself to love spreadsheets, because that wasn't working, right? Force myself to be responsible. Therefore, you need to lose spreadsheets. But the coach was like, okay, well, guess what? In order for you to make this impact, this is the question that needs to be answered. And so in answering that question, we can organize our stats and whatever around this thing, so we know what's happening, what's really happening in the business, what's really going on. And I'm like, but I just really want to help people as much as possible, give away as much free as possible, and then treat my team members really well as possible and give them a raise every year, right? And they said,
Yes,
okay, in order for you to do that, I need to know these numbers. And then I was
absolutely.
like, oh, then I was motivated, action, right? Was then motivated to do it. And of course, this is another running joke. Now the spreadsheets are all sorts of brand colors, so
Yes,
I'll actually look at them.
yes, absolutely. I get it. I get it. And as you were saying that, I was thinking we need color.
Yeah,
We need
that's right.
color. And then you said it. So
Yep,
yes.
yep, yeah. So and this embodying piece, that's my word for it. The like, we talked about that tiny little percent that's physical, right, including our senses, but we can actually use those parts of our physicality as a tool to then create on the quantum, if you will, that desired new reality. And so when you're talking about feeling it in the body, that's one of my big things, because I'm very in the past very much in my head,
Yes,
very creative, very much in my head, not in the body. And what I found is what you're talking about is if you can actually feel it, be it, sense it, and use those beautiful 3D senses, the hearing, the smelling, the tasting, the feeling, all that kind of stuff, then that really creates that template, that blueprint of already having had that.
absolutely. Absolutely. Look, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So, and I love that example, and I can relate to it so much, when it comes to CRMs. And you asked me a question about my website this morning. I'm like, well, I don't know. I have to ask my marketing person and my IT person, right? So I understand. I absolutely understand. And I think, a lot of your listeners would too. And I love your example, Dr. Karen. And what I love about what you shared is it seems like you went to the end. So this is the impact that I am making, that I want to make, and I can feel it and I can see it. And this is what really I'm passionate about, and what excites me, and my desire is deep. However, I really don't want to do this, but when you marry the two together, the spreadsheets, which we all need to have so we can assess if we are moving in the right direction or not, with the desire, then they work well. And I love that you can do it your way with color. If I may mention, and you also said that, people that are, feeling people and artistic and creative and the healers, they often say, oh, well, I'll just do it and I don't care about the money. And again, I think that is our programming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really careful about that. It's really interesting. I've had clients from all over the world, and thousands of clients literally, and I've worked with people that have no money and people that have had global businesses, and the number one thing that comes to me is money. It is incredible how many paradigms we all have around money. And that
Mm.
is one of my missions, to change how people see money. Now, if you if everything is energy and everything is consciousness, it is the same energy that has created us in the solar system and everything, then money is also that energy, right? Money is
Right.
99% energy. It's a concept that we created. It's just energy. And if this spirit, if this consciousness, if this intelligence is in everything, then money is actually spiritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that's going to probably some listeners will be like, what are you talking about? You know, money, it's greed and it's evil. Well, no, that's just a paradigm that we have created because of past experience, and we blamed it on money.
Yeah.
It's actually a spiritual experience. Now, I'd love to ask you, you know, or everyone that's listening, this question: what is your worth? What is your worth? And many people will go to their bank account. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's just numbers. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
say anything about your worth, excuse me. What we are discovering, just your physical body, Dr. Karen, has got enough electricity to light up industrialized cities. That's the less than 1% of who you truly are.
That's a good way
Talk
to
about
put it. Yeah.
your invisible worth, the infinite part. It is absolutely priceless. We cannot buy you. Would you sell your arm for $1 billion? Most people would say no, right? That shows that your arm is priceless. So therefore, you are worth whatever you desire, whatever you align yourself with. It does not mean that you are greedy. It does not
Mm-hmm.
mean that you will become evil. Money just makes you more of who you are. And if you are priceless, absolutely no amount of money can buy you.
I like that.
Absolutely no amount of money is at any level worthy of, you know, can't even come close to your worth. So when you align with that and you understand what money really is, you start to let it come in. And we know that money circulates, energy circulates, so money circulates. So the energy that you are giving your service out with is the energy that you'll also receive. And receiving money is a part of providing an incredible service.
And it's like that movement. There was a book I recently read, the new revised version called Sacred Economy or Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein. And in there he argues for, wealth not being the accumulation of money, but the circulation of energy. And
Yes,
that made
I
so much sense to me because I'm naturally generous to a fault in the past because I would just give everything away and then not have enough for myself. Um, but the circulation made a lot of sense to me because in some way, shape, or form, I was taught that somehow I was like that was a problem. Like I shouldn't be like that. I should have savings and I should do this and that. And in fact, I think I spent all of my life savings. I divested all my mutual funds, everything like that, because I didn't really resonate with any of those things or companies. I just wasn't into it. I wasn't interested in it. I didn't research it. I could care less, like I said. So I thought, but I could write a book and share my wisdom. And so I, invested all of that money in the book. And at first, some of the teachers, some of who you may know, go, "Oh my God, she spent 21,000. There's so many better things that she could have done with 21,000." But then I realized I invested in me. And then that's kind of come around. But at the beginning, I thought, "Am I nuts? Like, what am I doing here?" But it's that energetic. And it did push me to write my first book, which then become an international bestseller, #1. You know what I mean? So, and then it just kind of continued. So it wasn't the end of the. Thank goodness I had some good coaching. Basically, I'm like, okay, so since you spent 21,000 on this, let's make sure that you know what to do next.
Absolutely. I love that. I love everything that you've shared there, Dr. Karen. It's so good. You know, generosity is our natural state.
Yeah, yeah,
And yet, you know, and I understand because I've come in a culture where you do save, you know, well, humble migrant family, they're incredible, you know, they've done incredible. But it's you save. But my parents were very generous to their budget. You know, they give more than most people, but it wouldn't be to the extreme that, you know, the mortgage wasn't paid for or food or whatever. So they've always been generous. But yeah, my level of generosity is probably like what, you know, in your example. And, you know, when you give, not to get,
right.
when you give from the heart in the energy of giving, you know that it must come back to you tenfold. Not necessarily from the person. That's not the reason you give. You
Right.
give because you love and you want to give. And you feel good making another person feel good or whatever it is, you know. And when you give from a place of abundance, abundance will come back. I absolutely love that quote. From abundance she gave, and abundance remained.
Mm.
When you give from a place, there is plenty. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have, and I can give, even if it's $1 left. You've got this $1. Thank you. I'm going to give it. I choose to give it to whatever it is, to buy my coffee, to give it to a person that needs it. Whatever it is that you want to do, it must circulate. If you don't have the mentality of spending, if you say I'm spending my $1, spending does not come back. I'm giving from a place of abundance because there's enough, even more will come back. I have this thing when people sign up to one of my programs and they talk to me, and I've passed it on to my team too. I say to them, when you put the money across, do it with intention, do it from a place of abundance and feeling that it's coming back to you tenfold or 100-fold. Feel the tenfold, feel the 100-fold. And it works because they start to learn that they're not giving their money away, they are investing in themselves and it is circulating.
That's beautiful. And you know, there's many people who are in our tribe, in our community, highly sensitive souls who are generous, who love to give, and to the point, like I previously did, was to the point where I gave so much that I sacrificed myself, then became unhappy, and then unhealthy, and blah blah blah. So that there's this balance. But the thing was, is that even though the giving was natural, there are those of us who then read books and things, and the message coming across is be generous, you know, be generous, be generous, be generous. And it's almost like when we hear those messages, we feel guilty that we need
Yeah.
to give more. And then I am now saying, I read Anita Morjani's book, Sensitivity is the New Strong, where she really addresses this in one of her chapters for sensitive people. And she's like, these are not messages for you. They're not for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Dr. Karen, as you were saying that, I was thinking of Bob Proctor, you know, one of the more difficult lessons for me, and I didn't understand it, that he would say is, you know, if you think you're generous, you can't be generous if you don't receive. And I'm
Oh,
like,
thank you for saying that. That is so good.
yeah, yeah. Because giving and receiving are one and the same thing. So you can't have one without the other.
Wow. Can you say that one more time? That was so profound. I'm going to make a meme.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you cannot be generous if you do not receive. So you're lying to yourself. You know, if you're not receiving, you don't have to receive from the person that you're giving, but you have to teach yourself to open up to receiving, because giving and receiving are one and the same thing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Sacred Economics book talks about that as well, which really resonated with me, like two sides of the same coin. You can't
Absolutely.
peel off one side and go, well, this is good and this isn't.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a universal law, right? So,
Hmm.
and receiving are the opposites of the same thing.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. So, Susanna, tell us about your course with Brian. I know some people have been waiting for us to share
Mm.
about that, and you're obviously still doing live group coaching. That's very, very exciting. So, tell us, what have you co-created? What, people are resonating with your message. How can they get help from you?
Sure. So Brian Proctor, Brian is Bob Proctor's eldest son. And I just want to say, one of the most common questions I was asked by friends, when I was working with Bob and after he died, was Bob the real deal? And I would say, you have to meet his son, Brian, and you will know that he is the real deal. Brian is one of the most beautiful, kindest, most generous, stable people that I have ever met in my life. He is like a brother to me. And it just happened. We had a conversation, we did a webinar together, and that ended up being a co-coaching program, which we were just trialing, called Success Magnet. So Success Magnet is a 12-week program where you get coaching from both Brian Proctor and myself. We co-coach. Brian comes in almost every second week, or a couple of times a month, to coach people one-on-one in what we call the hot seat. We go through the universal laws, the success laws, some of which we've covered today, and we help people break through their barriers into greater success. So they have their big goal and dream, their C-type goal that we call, and they have a goal that is the stepping stone, the big goal that they would like to achieve within those 3 months that will take them to the big goal.
That's
So we are
great.
taking people. It has been the most incredible program I have been involved in. We're just moving through the first round now, and that's sold within 48 hours, excuse me, 2 days. And now we're taking people for the second round. It's just been extraordinary.
Okay, and this is something that you plan to continue on a regular basis, live group coaching?
Absolutely.
Wow. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. So, walk us through your website, which is your2minds.com. So the number two, so your and then the number two minds, plural.com. And right now, as of this, recording this podcast, this newer coaching program isn't up, but it will be eventually. So, what other things can people, get from you on the website, or some things?
Sure. On the website, you can get the first chapter of my book for free. If you are interested in Success Magnet with Brian Proctor and I, if it's not in the program section, please contact us. Admin at your2minds with the number 2.com is on the contact link on our website. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. And of course, you are on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. We can post those links underneath the show notes. And yeah, any last words you want to share, Susanna, the amazing work that you're doing for our audience?
I just want to thank you, Dr. Karen. Like I said, I absolutely love the work that you do and the change that you're making in the world. So it's been my absolute honor to be here with you, with your listeners. If people do want to join my Facebook group, the Millionaire Roundtable, I have a lot of free resources in there. There are webinars with Brian and I, interviews with Brian and I, and many other people. But I would just love to wrap up and just saying how grateful I am and how honored I am to have been on your show. Thank you, Dr. Karen, for the incredible work that you are doing.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So great to meet you and connect with you, and see the beautiful message that you are sharing. And I think our Light Medicine community is very grateful as well, if I can speak on behalf of our beautiful sensitive souls, healer types, light workers, um, because they really need to hear the message and in many different ways. So I appreciate you, appreciate Brian. So your2minds.com is where you can find the lovely Suzana, and consider checking in and seeing other things that's going to be happening in the future. And we'll put in the show notes some of the other links for you, our community. So thank you very much, Suzana. Thank you for our beautiful community for sharing and being here with us today. Big love to you all.
Thank you.